Amelia Earhart had already crossed the Atlantic solo, and by 1937 she set out to fly around the world. On July 2nd, she and her navigator, Fred Noonan, took off from Papua New Guinea, aiming for Howland Island, a tiny refueling stop in the Central Pacific. Radio contact got messy fast. Weak signals and heavy static. She asked for a radio bearing that never came through. Her last message said, "We are running north and south." And then, silence. The U.S. launched a massive search with both ships and aircraft and a price tag of around $4 million, about $90 million today. The search swept roughly 250,000 square miles of ocean. Nothing conclusive turned up. That's where the investigation has been ever since. A strong timeline up to the Howland area, and no confirmed wreckage after that. People usually point to 3 ideas. The first idea is that fuel ran low near the flight path and the plane went down in open water. It's simple and it fits the last known position. The second idea is that she and Noonan reached a reef or a beach and managed a rough landing and then survived for some length of time on Gardner Island. People have pointed to things found on the island: an aluminum panel, shoe fragments, a cosmetic jar, even a 1940 bones report, but none has been proven to belong to Earhart or her plane. The final idea is capture. Various versions have circulated for years, but there has never been any solid, verifiable evidence. What is known with confidence is this: the takeoff was normal. Radio trouble built as dawn approached. Navigation got hard over a small, flat island that is notoriously tough to spot from the air. Earhart tried a north-south line search where Howland should have been. After that, the record turns into scattered reports and later expeditions. Reef walks, aluminum checks, underwater scans, and drift models. Each added a piece, though none delivered the answer. The last clear line points toward Howland Island, and decades of searches and newer technology haven't filled in what happened next. Before movies were a business, Louis LaPrince was already capturing motion on paper film. In 1888, he filmed brief scenes in Leeds: people walking in a garden, traffic on a bridge, using a camera design that he had patented. His plan, 2 years later, was a public U.S. demonstration that might have fixed his name at the front of cinema history. In September 1890, LaPrince boarded a Paris-bound train to connect with friends before sailing to America. But he never arrived. Friends waited at the train station, but he didn't step off. His brothers saw him board the train, but no reliable witness saw him after that, and no clear paper trail explained what happened in between stations. Police looked into it and came back with little more than this: he boarded the train, and by the time it reached Paris, he was gone. Speculation was rampant. Suicide, a staged disappearance, or a violent end at the hand of a business rival. None of those stories came with any proof. More than a century later, researchers found a Paris police photograph of an unidentified drowned man from late 1890 who bears a resemblance to LaPrince. The likeness is striking enough to discuss, but not strong enough to settle. The identity remains unproven. While the case went cold, film history moved on with different names. Edison in the United States, the Lumiere brothers in France. LaPrince's reels, patents, and notes stayed with family and in archives. His story stops at that train platform. The public demo never happened. All that's left are fragments: patent drawings, a few seconds of film from 1888, letters about the planned U.S. show, and the unanswered question: what happened to Louis LaPrince? The Flannan Isles Lighthouse stands on Eilean Moor in Scotland's Outer Hebrides. In December 1900, a passing steamer reported the light dark on the 15th. The relief ship Hesperus, the boat that handled crew rotation and supplies, was kept offshore until December 26th due to bad weather. Inside, the place looked ready for the night. Clocks were wound and the lamps were set. But the three keepers, James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur, were gone. An inquiry by the Northern Lighthouse Board focused on the West Landing. There was damage there, and some gear was missing, which suggested the men were out in rough seas trying to secure equipment. The inquiry said the most likely answer was simple and harsh. Severe weather, possibly one sudden wave, swept them into the sea. One man was supposed to stay inside, but in a rush, it was easy for everyone to end up at the same spot. No bodies were ever recovered. Over the years, retellings of the story added drama, but the official paperwork sticks to the basics. Winter seas hit that coast hard, and the West Landing is exposed. If the men went down to the landing during a brief lull, and a wave rose without warning, there wasn't much time to react, and no one was there to see it. That's what keeps the story alive. A lighthouse ready for nightfall, and a light that never came on. A report was filed, a new crew took over, and nothing else. No remains, and no gear has turned up since. Friday, March 31st, 2006, medical student Brian Shaffer went out near Ohio State University, moving between a few bars with friends and ending the night at the ugly Tuna Saloona, close to closing time. Security cameras show him riding the escalator to the bar's second-floor entrance. They also show the usual closing time shuffle, people heading for the doors, groups splitting up, staff starting their end-of-night routines. What the footage doesn't clearly show is Brian leaving. At the time, construction in the concourse created blind spots and alternate paths, service corridors, a freight route, corners the cameras didn't catch, so the coverage wasn't perfect. Detectives pulled hours of video from nearby businesses, checked hospitals and jails, and watched for bank or phone activity. Family and friends put up flyers, did interviews, and walked the area for weeks. Tips came in, mostly pretty vague, but nothing that held up. The strangeness of the story keeps the case in public view. A man is seen on multiple camera angles going into a crowded bar, and he is never seen coming out. Detectives have emphasized the limits of the footage. Angles, obstructions, and crowds that can hide a person passing behind someone else or a path the camera doesn't catch. They have also cautioned against overanalyzing isolated still shots. Something that seems obvious in a single frame may be less clear when you watch the video play. By the next week, the best chance for quick answers had passed without a solid lead. Brian missed a planned trip. Holidays and anniversaries came and went. The case today still hinges on the same points: a name, a timestamp, a busy bar at closing time, and a grid of cameras that left just enough room for uncertainty. Until a witness, a new video clip, or physical evidence surfaces, the fate of Brian Shaffer will remain a mystery. During Thanksgiving break 1946, 18-year-old Paula Jean Welden left Bennington College wearing a red parka to hike a portion of Vermont's Long Trail. She was dropped near a trail entrance and continued on foot. When she didn't return to campus that evening, friends checked likely paths and local inns. By morning, the search widened, bringing deputies, college staff, and townspeople into the hills. Snow moved in. Searchers worked ravines and stone walls, knocked on farmhouse doors, and spoke with motorists who might have offered rides. The area's policing was spread across separate county sheriffs. There was no statewide police force, so efforts overlapped and at times left gaps. Despite the scale of the response, there was no confirmed